I bought this repossessed Bugatti Veyron with supposedly a broken gearbox. Nothing happens, but we managed to solve the problem with just a tiny fuse.
A Bugatti Veyron sitting in a garage with a £300,000 repair bill. The previous owner walked away from it, could not afford the fix. The car just sat there. Then a guy with a YouTube channel and a toolbox bought it, spent a few hours looking around, and fixed the whole thing with a fuse that cost less than a cup of coffee. £5, that is it. And right now, Bugatti is not happy about it, because this is the second time Mat Armstrong has done this to them. The first time was a Chiron, now it is a Veyron, and the internet is absolutely losing its mind over what he found. The car that was written off before Mat touched it. Before we get into what Mat actually found, you need to understand what kind of car this is and why that repair bill is so shocking. The Bugatti Veyron is one of the most famous cars ever made. When it came out in 2005, it was the fastest production car in the world. It had a 16-cylinder engine. It had 4 turbochargers. It made over 1,000 horsepower. Nothing else on the road came close to it. Building one cost Bugatti more than £5 million per car. They sold them for around £1 million each and still lost money on every single one. So when one of these cars breaks down, fixing it is not simple. At least, that is what Bugatti wants you to believe. The gearbox on the Veyron is a dual clutch unit. It is complex. It manages the power from that massive engine and sends it to all 4 wheels. When something goes wrong with it, Bugatti's official position is clear. They do not fix individual parts inside the gearbox. They replace the entire thing as one sealed unit, the whole box. And the price for that replacement? Around £300,000. That is not a typo. £300,000 for a gearbox. The previous owner of this particular Veyron was told exactly that. The gearbox has a problem. The fix is £300,000, and just like that, the car became worthless to them. You cannot justify spending £300,000 fixing a car that might be worth a similar amount. So they gave it up. The car got repossessed. It ended up being sold at a fraction of its value because everyone assumed the repair bill was real and unavoidable. That is when Mat Armstrong stepped in. Mat runs a YouTube channel where he buys broken supercars and fixes them. He has done it with Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Porsches. He has a real skill for finding cars that the official dealers have written off and bringing them back to life for a fraction of the cost. His audience loves it because every single video proves the same thing. Expensive does not always mean unfixable, and the official repair estimate is not always the truth. When Mat got his hands on this Veyron, the car would not move. The gearbox would not engage. It sat there completely stuck. You could start the engine, but the moment you tried to put it in drive or reverse, nothing happened. The car just sat in park and refused to go anywhere. Most people would look at that and think the same thing the previous owner thought. £300,000 problem. Walk away. Mat did not walk away. He started looking. Now here is the thing about Mat that makes him different from a regular mechanic. He does not assume the worst. He starts at the beginning. He checks the simple stuff first before he starts talking about replacing major components. It sounds obvious, but apparently it is not obvious to Bugatti's official service network because if it were, someone would have checked this before telling the previous owner to pay £300,000. What Mat found, when he started looking, is the kind of thing that makes your jaw drop. Not because it was complicated, because it was the opposite of complicated. And that is exactly what makes this story so interesting. What the diagnostics actually showed. The first thing Mat did was bring in help. He called in a specialist named Ricky from a company called RE Performance. Ricky could connect to the car remotely through the diagnostic system, which is basically a computer that talks to all the different systems in the car and tells you what is going on. Think of it like plugging a phone into a laptop to see what is wrong with it. The car has sensors everywhere. Those sensors send information to a central computer. The diagnostic tool reads that information and tells you what each system is doing. Ricky started running tests through the system. He tried to activate the secondary air pump. Nothing happened. The command went out. The pump did not respond. He tried the gearbox pressure pump next. Now, here is where it gets interesting. The computer said the pump was working. The data on Ricky's laptop showed the system behaving as if everything was fine. But Matt was standing next to the car and he could not hear anything. No pump noise, no pressure building. The system thought it was doing its job. In reality, nothing was happening at all. That is a very specific kind of problem. When the computer thinks everything is working, but nothing is actually working, it usually means one of two things. Either the sensor is lying to the computer, or the power is not actually getting to the component. The command goes out, the system logs it as successful, but somewhere between the computer sending the signal and the pump receiving it, something is broken. And the most common reason for that, a fuse. A fuse is basically a small piece of wire inside a little plastic housing. It is designed to handle a specific amount of electrical current. If too much current flows through it, the wire inside melts and breaks. The circuit is cut. No power gets through. The fuse takes the hit so that the more expensive parts do not get destroyed. Every car has dozens of them. They sit in a fuse box, usually under the hood or inside the cabin. They are cheap. They are easy to check. Replacing one takes about 30 seconds and costs almost nothing. If Bugatti's official diagnosis had included checking the fuses, this story would never have happened. The car would have been fixed for £5, and the previous owner would still have their Veyron. But nobody checked. Or, if someone did check, they either missed it or chose not to mention it. Because the official answer was already decided. Sealed gearbox replacement. £300,000. End of conversation. Matt was not having that. He asked Ricky to keep running the remote diagnostics while he went and found the fuse box. What he found in that fuse box is one of the most talked about moments in automotive YouTube history. Not because it was a dramatic discovery, because it was so simple, so obvious, so completely avoidable, and it tells you everything you need to know about how Bugatti's service system actually works. The £5 fix that changed everything. Matt opened the fuse box and started going through every single fuse one by one. He did not have a diagram. He did not know which fuse controlled which system. He just started checking them manually, one at a time. Most of them were fine. Then he got to one that was not. It was completely destroyed, melted, burnt through. Whatever was supposed to be inside it was long gone. It had blown at some point, and nobody had replaced it with the right one. But here is where the story gets even more interesting. The fuse that was in there was a 40-amp mini fuse. That matters because mini fuses do not normally come in 40-amp ratings. The standard sizes are 10-amp, 15-amp, 20-amp, sometimes 30-amp. 40-amp is not a standard size for that type of fuse. Someone had put a non-standard fuse in there on purpose. Think about why someone would do that. If a fuse keeps blowing, it means the circuit is drawing more power than the fuse is rated for. The right response is to find out why too much power is being drawn. The wrong response is to just keep replacing the fuse with a higher rated one until one finally stays in. That is exactly what had happened here. The smaller fuses kept blowing, so someone went up to a 30-amp. That blew too. Then a 40-amp. That finally stayed in long enough not to fail immediately. But eventually that one burned out too, and now the circuit had no protection at all. A fuse exists for a reason. It is the safety net. When you bypass the safety net by fitting one that is too big for the circuit, you remove the protection. Now, if something goes wrong in that circuit, the fuse does not blow. Instead, the wiring gets hot. Components can burn out. In a worst-case situation, you get a fire. Someone had already done that to this car. And then when even the 40-amp fuse burned out, the car stopped working. And that is when Bugatti looked at it and said 300,000 pounds. Mat removed the burnt fuse completely and did a test. He and his team supplied 12 volts directly to the circuit manually. The moment they did, the gearbox pressure pump kicked in. For the first time since Mat bought the car, the pump was actually running. He then installed a proper 20-amp fuse where the burnt one had been. The pump activated, it built pressure. Then it shut off exactly the way it is supposed to. That is the correct behavior. Build pressure, reach the right level, stop. Mat got in the car. He tried to shift out of park. It worked, just like that. Park, reverse, neutral, drive, every gear engaged smoothly. The car that had been stuck and declared beyond economical repair was now shifting through all its gears because of a fuse that cost £5 from a high street shop. Mat put the car up on a ramp to check if it would hold under load. He put it in drive. All four wheels spun. The transmission was fully operational. Every system was working. A 300,000-pound repair job, fixed with a £5 fuse. And the car that the previous owner gave up because they could not afford the bill was now driving perfectly. Why Bugatti's system allowed this to happen? Here is the part of this story that goes beyond Mat Armstrong and his YouTube channel. Because the real question here is not how Mat fixed it. The question is why nobody else did. Bugatti operates what is called a sealed gearbox policy. When a Veyron or a Chiron comes into the official service network with a gearbox problem, the technicians do not open the gearbox and look inside. They do not diagnose individual components. They do not check fuses or sensors or pumps one by one. They replace the whole unit, every time. No exceptions. On one level, you can understand why. These are incredibly complex machines. The gearbox has hundreds of parts inside it. If you open it up and start poking around, and you do not know exactly what you are doing, you can cause more damage than you fix. Bugatti wants to protect the car. They want to make sure the repair is done to the highest possible standard. A sealed unit replacement guarantees that. But that guarantee comes at a cost. £300,000 to be exact. And if the actual problem is a £5 fuse that is preventing power from reaching the pump, that £300,000 replacement is completely unnecessary. The sealed gearbox policy means Bugatti never looks at the simple stuff first. They go straight to the most expensive solution without ruling out the cheaper ones. And if you are a Bugatti owner who trusts the official service network, you will pay that bill without question because you believe the diagnosis is thorough. Mat's fix raises an uncomfortable question. How many other Veyrons have been written off for the same reason? How many owners have been told £300,000 when the actual problem was a fuse, a sensor, or a relay? How many of these cars are sitting in garages or wrecking yards right now because the official diagnosis skipped the basic checks? Nobody knows the answer to that. But the fact that it happened to this car and happened to the Chiron Mat bought before this one suggests it is not a one-off situation. The internet certainly thinks so. The comment sections on Mat's videos were absolutely brutal about Bugatti. People pointed out that Bugatti's own head of communications, Mat Armstrong, had previously been critical of people like Mat working on these cars without official training. The implication was that these cars are too complex and too sensitive for anyone outside the official network to touch. Mat just fixed one with a fuse from a high street shop for £5. The contrast between what Bugatti says and what Mat actually demonstrated is what has people so fired up. It is not just about one car. It is about a whole system that seems designed to push owners toward the most expensive possible solution rather than the most accurate one. And Mat has now exposed that system twice. First with a Chiron, now with a Veyron. Both times, cars that were supposedly beyond economical repair turned out to have problems that a competent mechanic with the right approach could solve for almost nothing. The first time Mat embarrassed Bugatti, and what happened next. This was not the first time Mat Armstrong had put Bugatti in an awkward position. The Veyron story is big, but the Chiron story came first, and it set the stage for everything that followed. A Bugatti Chiron is the successor to the Veyron. It is even more powerful, even more expensive, even more exclusive. A new one costs around £2.5 million. When a Chiron breaks down, the repair costs reflect that price tag. Mat bought a salvage Chiron. It had been declared a total loss. Insurance had written it off. It sat there as a car that was supposedly too far gone to be worth fixing. Mat fixed it. He went through the same process he always does. Start simple. Check everything. Do not assume the problem is as bad as the official story says it is. He brought in specialists where he needed help. He sourced parts from places the official network would never look. He did the work that other people said could not be done. The car came back to life. The Chiron fix was not a quick job either. It took months. Mat documented the whole thing on his channel, step by step, showing exactly what he was doing and why. His audience watched him work through one problem after another. Some parts were genuinely difficult to source. Some repairs required real skill and real knowledge. This was not a guy getting lucky. This was someone who understood cars deeply and refused to be told something was impossible without checking for himself. By the time the Chiron was running again, his channel had grown massively. People were sharing the videos everywhere. The automotive world was paying attention in a way it had not before. The online reaction to that was enormous. People who follow the supercar world could not believe it. And Mat Armstrong, who runs Bugatti's parent company, made some comments online that suggested he was not pleased about the whole thing. The message from the official side was clear. These cars should be handled by official specialists. Working on them outside the approved network is risky and irresponsible. Then Mat bought the Veyron, and fixed that too, with a 5-pound fuse. The timing of the two fixes back-to-back is what has people talking so loudly. It is not a coincidence or a lucky break. It is a pattern. Mat has shown twice that Bugatti's official repair narrative does not always match the actual reality of what is wrong with the car. That is a serious problem for Bugatti's reputation. These are cars that cost millions of pounds. The people who buy them trust the official service network completely. They have no reason not to. The cars are exclusive. Trained technicians staff the service centers. The prices reflect the level of expertise you're supposed to be getting. But if a YouTube mechanic can buy 2 of these cars, diagnose them himself, and fix both of them for a fraction of the official estimate, it raises a question that Bugatti cannot easily answer. Is the official service network actually as thorough as it claims to be? Or is the sealed unit replacement policy a business decision that has more to do with revenue than with actually solving the problem? Mat Armstrong does not have a public answer to that from Bugatti. What he has is 2 fixed cars and millions of people watching his videos and coming to their own conclusions. And right now, those conclusions are not favorable to Bugatti. Now it's time to hear from you. A 5-pound fuse was all that stood between a working Bugatti and a £300,000 repair bill. How many other cars out there have been written off for problems that were just as simple to fix? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. For more interesting stories like this, be sure to click on the next video that pops up on your screen. You never know what you'll discover next.